Hello, this is the last part of the video series on solving inequalities. In this part of the video series, we are going to look at quadratic inequalities. So before we can dive into quadratic inequalities, I'd like to do a quick revision on quadratic equations, how to solve quadratic equations by factorization. So it's not going to be too long, so just a quick revision. Now, a quadratic equation is of the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. So this is a quadratic equation. Now, if you want to solve this equation by factorization, so that's the method we'll be using. So we have to look for two numbers. So we call it product and sum. We look for products. So that's two numbers that when you multiply together, we give you a times c. And when you add, we'll give you b, basically. So what do I mean by that? So let's say you have this equation, x squared plus 4x plus 3 equals 0. So if you compare this equation with the general equation or a quadratic equation, you will have that you will see that a is equal to 1, b is equal to 4, and c equals 3. So if you want to factorize this quadratic equation, you look for two numbers that when you multiply together, we give you the product of a and c. And when you add together, we give you b. So now what is the product of a and c here? That's 3. So we are looking for two numbers that when we multiply together, we give you 3. And when you add, we give you 4. So if the sum is here and the product is here, now clearly we can see that 1 times 3 will give us 3, and 1 plus 3 will give us 4. So this is very easy because we can easily figure out the product and sum. Now, what you have to do now is to replace the middle one, the x term, with the term such that you replace this 4 with 1 and 3. So I'll have to have x squared plus 3x plus x plus 3 equals 0. What I've done is to remove the 4x and replace it with these numbers I have here. 1 and 3 will be the coefficient of x here. So we've not changed anything because when you combine these again, you come back here. So 3x plus x will give you 4x, which is exactly the same thing. So what do you do next? Then you factorize these two parts, these two terms you combine, then these two terms you combine. So what do? You look at two numbers that are common. You need to look at what is common to these two terms. So x is common, x. You factorize it out, then plus x plus 3. That's what you have remaining. When you pull out x from here, you have x remaining. When you pull out x from here, you have 3 remaining. Plus, so when you look at what is common to these, if nothing is common, as a rule of thumb, 1 is common to them. So the only thing that is common to them is 1. So if I pull it out, then I will have the same thing there. So you can check, as a sanity check, you can expand this to see if you will go back to this. Okay, so now, when you look at this and this, x plus 3 is common to them. I can pull out x plus 3. So what do I have remaining here? X. And what do I have remaining here? Plus 1 equals 0. So you do x plus 3 equals 0. You equate each of the terms to 0, or x plus 1 equals 0. Then you have x equals minus 3, which is 0 minus 3, or x equals minus 1. 0 minus 1 be minus 1. So that's the solution. This class is not for solving quadratic equation, is just to do a quick recap. Sometimes the product and sum might be trickier than this, but that is the procedure. Now I'll go to inequality. Now in quadratic inequality, instead of having the equal sign, you will have the inequality sign, like less than or equal to, and so on. So let's say you have an example. Let's say solve x squared plus 4x plus 3 less than 0. So let's say that's the problem that you have. So how do you deal with these? And before you can solve this, I would advise you plot it, factorize it, get the roots of the quadratic equation, have a sketch of it, then that will give you an idea of where the solution lies. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. Now, this question is basically what I've done here. So I don't want to repeat it. So it means I will have x plus 3, x plus 1 less than 0. So because the factorization of this gave me this. Then go to the next slide. X plus 3, x plus 1, x plus 3, x plus 1 less than 0. So this is what I want to solve. So if I have a quick sketch of this graph, I'll have the roots. The root of the equation will be x equals minus 3 or x equals minus 1, right? So that will be the root. So now I'm not looking at the inequality sign. I'm just trying to see where this point, this function or the quadratic equation will cut the x-axis. So this is x, this is y. So this is 0.3 minus 3, and this is minus 1. So it means that the quadratic function will go this way. So it's a sketch, so it's not drawn to accuracy. Now it's going to have a minimum simply because the coefficient of x squared here is positive. So that's the reason why it's like this and it's not like this, okay? So now I have this. How do I know the solution? So now this, which is just like saying y is less than 0, because all this is basically y. So what you have on the left is basically the y. So that's what when you evaluate this, whatever you get is the y value. So that must be less than 0. It means that the solution will be all numbers, because it means that the product of these two numbers must be less than 0. So must be negative. So this is where the solution lies. The solution has to be towards the negative side of y. Okay, so that means this is where I will have the solution. Which part of the quadratic function cuts this shaded part? Is this? This is the part that cuts the shaded part. So this is the solution of the quadratic inequality. So what range of values of x will fall within this range? It means that x has to be greater than minus 3, because you have to go this way for you to fall here. And also you have to go that way. So because you have to go this way for you to meet the range. So or x less than minus 1, because if you go towards the left, you meet numbers that are less than minus 1. So that is the solution. X greater than minus 3 or x less than minus 1. Or I can say minus 3 less than x less than minus 1. So this is another way I can write it. So that's the solution of that. So let's look at another example. Let's say you have example 2. We have solved x squared minus 5x minus 24 greater than 0. So here I need to first factorize this quadratic function. So I need to look for product and sum. What are the products? Two numbers that when we multiply together will give us minus 24. But when we add, will give us minus 5. So that's what I'm looking for. So what are the two numbers? So to get minus 24 rather, you can do 6 times 4. You can do 12 times 2. So I'm looking for the one that will give me 5. What else can I do? I can do 3 times 8. So I can see clearly that, okay, it is a combination of 3 and 8 that will give me minus 5. So if I put Though you can see I need -4 here. I'm not considering the sign yet, but if I want to consider the sign now, because I can see clearly that combining 3 and 8 is what will give me 5. So if I put plus here and I put minus here, so plus times minus will give me minus, and 3 times 8 will give me 24. So you can see that I got what I need here. Let's see if I'll get the sum. So plus 3 minus 8, will it give me -5? Yeah. So I got the sum as well. Now, the two numbers will be plus 3 and -8. So what I will do now is to replace this -5 with plus 3x minus 8x. So I'll have x squared plus 3x minus 8x minus 24, I think. Double check that. Okay. So greater than 0. So I'll factorize this part, x plus 3 minus 8, x plus 3 greater than 0. Then I have x minus 8, x plus 3 greater than 0. So if I solve this part to get the roots, I will get x. If I equate this part to 0, then I will have x equals 8. Or if I equate this part to 0, I will have x equals -3. So now I have the roots as 8 and -3. If I plot it, so let's say this is 2, 4, 6, 8, and this is -2, -4, then the function will cut the x-axis at -3 and at 8. So I have something that looks like this. It's going to have a minimum as well, because the coefficient of x squared is also positive. So it's going to be like that, a U-shaped. If it was negative, it's going to be N-shaped. Now, how do I get the solution? Now I go back to the sign. I have greater than. It means that when I multiply whatever value I get for this term and this term, when I take any value of x, it must be positive. It must be a positive number, so greater than 0. So the y, which is the result of this, must be positive. So I need to go up. So I don't need the regions that are below the x-axis. I need only the regions that are above, because it is only in those regions that I will have x being, I will have y being positive. So I need this part. Greater than means I will shade above, less than means I will shade below the x-axis. Greater than, I will shade above the x-axis, which is basically the region where y is positive. And if you have less than, you are going to shade the region where y is negative. So now you can see the part of the graph that cuts, the part of the function that cuts that region will be this part and this part. Now for you to meet this part, that means you have to go in this direction. So you can see that the function is progressing in that direction. And here the function is also progressing in this direction. So it means that the solution will be x less than -4, because in this region you meet numbers that are less than -4 when you go towards the left, and when you go towards the right, you meet numbers that are greater than 8. So or x greater than 8. So that will be the solution. Okay, so it's possible to combine it. If x is greater than 8, it means 8 is less than x, and x is less than -4. So that's another way you can combine it. Okay, so we stop there, and I'll see you in the next video series. Bye bye.